Hey, what's up? I'm Justin and welcome to Diabetic. Today we are getting into the Tandem Mobi app for iOS. I have got it on my phone. I've been using the pump for about almost 2 months now, and I want to walk through kind of the entire app, what it can do and how you can use it. This is the first time I've ever worn a tubed pump, and the interesting thing about this one is there is no screen on it. It is completely controlled with the app, although there is a button on it that allows you to bolus, and I'll kind of get into that because you can set that up through the app, and I'll show you what I did with it. It's a really cool feature. If you're new here on this channel, I talk all things diabetes tech, news, and innovation. I have a podcast that comes out on Mondays on YouTube and video or on podcast platforms if you just want to listen to it. And I also have videos come out on Fridays like this where I talk about my experience using technology and do reviews. Today, I'm walking you through the app, how to bolus, what the home screen looks like, the different modes you can put it in, from activity to sleep mode, and a bunch of other stuff. If you have questions, I'm gonna be reviewing this. I also have a lot of other content coming out across socials and on here, so drop your questions in the comments. Maybe someone else can answer it, and if they don't, I will include that answer in my review that will come out in a few weeks. Also, be sure to check out diabetech.info. Over there, I'm dropping the latest in diabetes tech and research news. We've got articles coming out every week. We've also got All Access, where you'll get access to premium content, including a brand new video all about travel, where I answer follower questions all about traveling with diabetes, whether it be at the airport, keeping my insulin cool, how I navigate different scenarios. It's got some great info, and I'll put a link in the show notes. All right, let's get into it. All right, let's start this bad boy up. First, I use the action button to open up this app. It's super easy. You just edit that in your settings for your phone if you have that button. I also have a whole article about like cool ways to use your iPhone, which I'll throw in the show notes. So yes, it's open with the action button, and here we are. This is the home screen. So let me kind of walk you through what is here. You've got in the top left the battery life of the Mobi. You have to recharge this pump on a charging pad. It's at 100%. I just charged it. On the right side, you've got how many units of insulin are left on board. So if I actually tap that, it will take me down and it will show me all of the information of like my insulin treatment at the moment. So my basal rate currently is 0 because I was going low just before filming, of course. My last bolus, if Control IQ is on, which is like the automated insulin delivery system, the algorithm, then the profile that's on, and it even gives you like all of the details on what that profile is, etc. So that is on the home screen. You've got your glucose level. I'm 84 and steady, thank goodness. Let's get through this video. And then the insulin on board, 0.63 units. So yeah, that is the home screen. What I love, there's this cool touch. If you like scroll down to refresh, there's like clouds. It's cute. They did a good job here. Then you've got the main graph. So as you can see, there is a lot of information here. First of all, you're seeing these teardrops at the bottom, or just drops. I think they're insulin drops, actually. I don't know, not teardrops. Anyway, these drops at the bottom represent 2 different types of boluses. So the blue ones, the light blue ones, if I tap on the last one, that is the last bolus that I gave. I gave 17 grams bolus, and then they calculated 1.42 grams. I like that it also gives you some other information that like tells you, how much insulin was on board, prior bolus and glucose. So the cool thing is you can actually swipe through to like the last few boluses or just the last information. So if I swipe to the left, it shows you the glucose again, and then an automatic correction bolus. So you see how that's like a darker blue? I'll go back in here. That darker blue one was an auto correction bolus, and that's one of like the powerful features of Tandem's Control IQ is that it will automatically bolus you once every hour if needed without you needing to like go in and do it yourself. It is a nice way to, have your diabetes managed without having to really think about it. So that is what the darker blue is. Again, the light blue is my boluses. Then you see how you have all of these numbers on the graph. So for a while I was trying to figure out like, why are these so sporadic and happening at like the most random times? And I found out that those numbers come up when you open up the bolus menu. So you see how I opened up the Bolus menu, and then look on the graph, you will see a number appear right there. You've got the 84 just appeared. That was me. I did that. Yeah, I had no idea that that was me doing that until someone told me. And then along the bottom, you could see the basal rate, how it's fluctuating currently again at 0 because I'm going lower. And you can kind of swipe through and see when it's giving you, more of a basal and then holding back and then your boluses. So that's kind of all the information you're seeing on the main screen. And of course, like that bracket is my target glucose range that I've set. The app is always going to try to get you to 110 or like 112. And then there are other features that will kind of maybe raise that target for you, which I'll get into. So next up, let's get into the Bolus menu. So let's go into Bolus, and it's going to ask me if I want to reduce my bolus calculation right now because I'm going low. So look, you can see it is reducing my bolus by 0.63 units at the moment. And it's also saying that I have insulin on board, 0.5. So it's going to reduce that from whatever I put. So let's say I put in like 50 grams of carbs. It's doing all of this math and it shows you, which is pretty cool. It shows you what it's doing. So that is a correction bolus. Oh, you could turn off correction bolus. I don't do that because I want to make sure that like the algorithm's doing its thing. Next, you can do an extended bolus now, up to 8 hours, which is so cool with Control-IQ Plus. So not everyone has this. Currently in the US, you have it. So here's where I can adjust the percentage of insulin I want immediately, and then a percentage of insulin that I want delivered over a span of time. So when I'm eating fattier foods, what I do here is I give myself around 70 to 80% immediately, and then 20 to 30% of the insulin over time to take into account a slower intake into my glucose because it was a fattier food, a fattier high protein food. So in this case, I would go, let's say, 80% now, 20% later, and then I would change the extension to 4 hours. Did I say up to 8 hours earlier? It's up to 6 hours if I said up to 8 hours. No, I think it is up to 8 hours actually. I think that just sometimes it limits you. So anyway, there you go. That is up to 4 hours. I'm not gonna bolus now because I will go low on camera and that wouldn't be a pretty sight. So that was the bolus screen. Now let's go to the actions menu. So here in the middle, you've got actions. So on top, you've got stop insulin. This is where I can stop my insulin. And you see how when I tap that, it's asking me to authenticate with my face, with Face ID. So one thing I like about this app is that unlike others, you don't need to use Face ID to open the app, to quickly view information. But anytime you're adjusting something related to insulin treatment, it will require Face ID. It will only require Face ID that one time while the app's open, and you'll be able to, do a bunch of things. I really like that feature because oftentimes you just want to open the app real quick to see something on the home screen and you don't want to have to use your Face ID. And I hope that other companies like Omnipod introduce kind of that reversal of use with Face ID on their app. So then you've got a few options here. First, you've got exercise. So exercise is a feature you want to use when you are going to be working out. You want to put it on at least an hour before that workout, and this will raise your target to 140 to 160 milligrams per deciliter. Sorry, I don't know the millimoles at the moment. I'll put them on screen. It will also change up the algorithm a bit to be a little less aggressive to take into account that you're working out. I also have to do something else if I'm doing heavy cardio, which I'll get into in just a moment, but that's exercise. Then there's sleep mode. In sleep mode, what that does is it narrows your target range to just 112.5 to 120 milligrams per deciliter. So it's a tighter range that it's bringing you to, but it's only using basal insulin adjustments. It turns off auto corrections. This is good for when you're sleeping, when you don't need those auto corrections, and it will just do a good job at getting you down to your range and then keeping you flat over the night. I've seen a lot of flat nights thanks to sleep mode. What I did was, and you can see sleep schedules below it, and which you have to set. I set my sleep schedules to start at 3 a.m., which some people may say like that's a little late in the evening or morning. The reason it works well for me is I tend to have meals late in the night. And I found that I wasn't getting the auto correction boluses I needed, the strong auto correction boluses that I needed to cover those meals. So I decided to move my sleep mode to 3 a.m. That way I have a little longer after those meals for the auto corrections to bring me down lower and then have sleep mode activate. So you can actually you can create a couple schedules and then turn one off, turn one on the other. So that's sleep schedules. Then you've got temp rate, which is temp basal. So prior to the current algorithm, you couldn't have this on during automated mode, but now with Control IQ Plus, you can. That algorithm's not out everywhere yet, currently just in the US as of when I'm making this video. What this temp basal rate helps with is when you have different insulin needs for a certain period of time. This setting can be turned on for up to 72 hours, which is for like if you're sick or you're having your menstrual cycle and you need a different insulin treatment for that period of time. So you can set how much insulin you want. So if you want, 30% of your insulin needs, which means you'll get a reduced, 70%, or if you want, over all the way up to 250%. So you can get 150% more insulin if needed for a certain period of time. It gives you that ability. Then you can set the time. So again, like I said, it can go up to 72 hours. Specifically, what I'm using this a lot for is working out. I set it to, when I'm doing like a heavy cardio, I set it to 30%. And then I go in and I set it to 3 hours, which is basically 1 hour before I work out, 1 hour during I work out, and then 1 hour after I work out. What I do in combination to this, and let's just see when I start it, if it does anything on the main screen. It does have a little yellow T on top. When you tap there, it says temp rate. So let me also go in and turn that off. What I do in addition to that for workouts that are cardio heavy is I turn on exercise mode, again, an hour before my workout. So in combination, those two things have kept me in my range during workouts. And then lastly, at the bottom, you've got load cartridge. This is when you want to switch out the cartridge, you need to fill tubing, fill your cannula. It gives you everything there. It also gives you a site reminder. I didn't realize it doesn't alert you if you have had your site in for over 3 days. You have to set a reminder. So if you set a reminder, you can say, remind me in anywhere from 1 to 3 days, what time it is, and then set that reminder. I've needed to set that because otherwise I was forgetting when did I load my cartridge? And there is a way to find that, which we'll get into in just a second. So that is the Actions tab. Next, Notifications tab. Luckily, I don't have any notifications at the moment, but this is where notifications for if you have low insulin, there's a CGM alert, like you have a low or a high, battery is low. Any notification you get will be here, and your pump will continue to alert you until you acknowledge that notification and swipe it and turn it off. So that is the Notifications tab. And next we've got the Settings tab. So here you have a bunch of different tabs to click on. First we'll go into pump. Here you've got, on the first thing is personal profile. So this is where you put all of your information for your basal, your bolus needs, your insulin to carb ratio, your insulin sensitivity factor, all that jazz here in time brackets. And so as you can see, I have a lot of time brackets. I've been finagling a lot with this system to get it to work for me. Then you've got Control IQ. This is turning on automated insulin mode. You put your weight and your total daily insulin needs. Then you've got the quick bolus setting. So like I said earlier, you can bolus from the device. There is a button on it that allows you to dose insulin if you don't have your phone on you, which is great because I don't want to always have my phone on me when I want to have a quick insulin dose and I'm in the pool, whatever it is. Although probably won't be wearing this in the pool because it's not supposed to be submerged for too long. You can learn more about that in my review, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, the quick bolus button screen. So here you can choose whether you want it to be dosing you in grams or units. I use grams because I carb count when I treat myself for insulin. Other people think of it more of in a units way. I think of it in grams. So you can set that in increments for grams from 2, 5, 10 to 15. I have 15, so 15, 30, or 45 gram increments. That's the most you can do is 3 doses of this. Let's just say it was units though, just so you can see it. You can do anywhere from 0.5 to 5 units per button press, which I get more into in my other Tandem videos, my switching to a tube pump video, and then my review, I'll also, get deeper into that. But yeah, you can use the button right on the pump to dose yourself insulin, and it is really a lifesaver because you don't want to always, have to go get your phone when you want to take insulin. To that point, I also wish that the button allowed you to suspend insulin, because what I do have to do is every time I want to detach my pump and take a shower, I have to go run for my phone to suspend insulin, which was on that Actions tab. That's not fun. And I wish that there was a way to use that button to suspend insulin. So Tandem, please introduce that. Back to the settings though. So then you've got delivery limits, pump time and date, pump info, and then software updates. So there recently was a big update. That's where I, did all that. So let me go back to the main screen. CGM. So the main thing I wanted to talk about here is the fact that what I love about Mobi and Tandem pumps, it seems, is that you're able to switch out the CGM within a session. So I went from G7 to G6 to G7 while my pump was on, and that was fine. And that is all done through this tab. Whereas on other systems, specifically I know on Omnipod, you need to activate a brand new pump when you switch sensors. I really wish there was a way, and I hope that that Inslet builds a way for Omnipod to be able to do that in the middle, because that was frustrating for me. It's not very often you're switching between, types of sensors, but it did happen in that case. And I wish that they would fix it, but this video is not about Omnipod. Anyway, let's go back to alerts and sounds now. So this is a pretty important thing to get right, I think, because one thing I've had with Mobi that I didn't have with Omnipod or DIY systems I've used is I've had alert fatigue. There are so many alerts that you can get with this, and more than I did with a tubeless pump, because then there's like the charging it, and there's other alerts I can't think of right now, but so here's where you can set them. So the first one is where you can set like a low insulin alert. I have it set to 20 units. Then you've got pump reminders. So these are reminders you can have like for when you're having low or highs. You can set it to like remind you. So let's say this low, you can set it to remind me like after 15 minutes, remind me again. The thing is, I don't want to be reminded of my CGM alerts on my pump, right? I'm getting that with my CGM, so I have those turned off. Then you've got pump sounds. Here's where you can switch things from vibrate to beep. I've been finagling with this a little bit, figuring out, what do I want to beep? What do I want to vibrate? So yeah, you've got all that information. You could also have like a snooze on as well. Then you've got CGM alerts, which is, having high alerts and low alerts here. You've got an out of range alert, which, oh yeah, that's been another alert that I get a lot too, is like that my CGM's not in range. So just a lot of alerts. Let me know what you think of alerts, by the way. If you're already using the system, what's your alert experience like on Mobi or any Tandem pump, or any pump for that matter? I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. All right, back to the main settings. Then you've got app. So the main thing in here that has been necessary for me to look at is history. So the history tabs where you can find out, the history of what's been going on with your pump. Specifically for me, if I go to pump history, which by the way, pump history being in the app tab always confuses me, because I feel like it should be in the pump tab. Your pump history should be in the pump tab, and your CGM history should be in the CGM tab. But, perhaps there's a reason why you'd be looking at both at the same time, and maybe that's why they're in here together. I don't know. Anyway, when I go to pump history, what I'm looking at a lot is like the load when I've loaded a cartridge. So my last one was April 18th, and I'm set to, do one 3 days after that. So that is the history tab. You can see like a bunch of things here, your boluses, over time, like look at all that. Which leads me to like another thing, which is I wish instead of having to go to like pump history, which is great to have all that information, I just wish on the dashboard that when you scroll back, it didn't stop at 24 hours. We have the technology and the capabilities to scroll back at least 7 days of data. Like there are times when I'm on the phone with my educator and I just want to look back like, oh, what was Tuesday like? And I think that I want this with all systems, is more than 1 day of data. And this is like true for so many systems out there, is that there's a very short amount of time you can look back at on the graphs. Simplera, a CGM from Medtronic, did this really well. You could like go back for ages, which was great. So if we can see that on here, that'd be super nice. So yeah, that is the Tandem app. I've got a lot more Tandem content coming out. I've got a site change video that's already out where I walk through the entire site change process. I've got a review coming for Mobi, and I've also got a bunch of videos on social with using Tandem and Omnipod and just, so many videos. So make sure to subscribe to this channel, and if you want to get alerted to new videos, click that bell and give this video a like so other people can find it. I've got a podcast on Mondays, these videos on Fridays. I hope you follow for more. I'm Justin, and I'll tech you later.